Oh, that's right, Internet. The 2020 elections are coming up, and that means a bunch of out-of-touch geriatric rich people are gonna attempt to appear relatable to the biggest experiment in civil history. Not like people are painfully different in between New York and Nebraska, but hey, that's why it's called a union. Someone's gonna get screwed over. Now, I could honestly levy the title of crook or criminal at any politician ever in the history of ever. Please place Hillary or Trump joke here. But you know what? This is America, and that means there's always somebody weirder. You know, like for example, Vernon Supreme. You know, that guy that had a shoe on his head and he said everybody would get a pony if he was elected president. Honestly, a true man of a people. You know, like, damn, when you look at Vernon Supreme, you go, that man represents America. Well, maybe Florida, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But today, Internet, we actually have a real life Tony Montana running for president. A real life crooked criminal. Well, I use those terms loosely, but it's widely assumed that he has done things like murder and fled from states and tons of other very interesting things. So today, Internet, we're gonna look at a man who's not only a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but he likes to sling dope, do coke, hold lots of guns. He also invented one of the first antivirus programs. His name is John Mcafee.
The procedure for removing Mcafee antivirus software from your computer is as follows. First, make sure you have a full backup.
Yes, Bartholomew. Back it up. Back it up. That's right.
Yeah,
Very
John.
important. Back it up.
So I bet you're real fucking confused on what that was, because I sure was when I first saw it. You know, I bet you're thinking to yourself right, man, in absolute awe of this man, you are thinking, man, this is what America needs right now. So let's talk about John and how he became a literal payday character, because this video is just beautiful. By the way, that's his wife, so there you go. But I should also mention, he did have a fling with the hooker, so, but you know what, we'll get to that. There's lots of really fun stuff about John. He is something else. So, obviously, you don't wake up one day from $1 million company and then all of a sudden start doing coke and running from the police. So, how'd John get here? Why is he here in the first place? So, John, of course, like many coke addicts before him, had a bit of a rough upbringing, and if one of you is a coke addict, I'm sorry if that offended you. Why am I saying that? What the hell's wrong with me? You see, John Mcafee's a bit of a self-made man, in that his family wasn't really supportive of his wants and wishes. In fact, his father was an intense alcoholic, and it made John's life pretty difficult. But John didn't have to deal with that for long, because his dad committed suicide. Oh, you hear that? It's the demonetization. Obviously, that's no joke, but this left a really hard and long impact on John, and after that, he ended up taking in the drugs and also taking in the alcohols, much like his father did in the past. Now, in his early teens and 20s, life is kind of sporadic for John, and not a lot of information is known on that. But the amounts of drugs that he did and all the alcohol he did actually didn't stop him from being an incredibly intelligent student. But that doesn't mean he escaped strange escapades. You see, while he was studying for his PhD at the College of Northeast State Louisiana State College, great name, really rolls off the tongue, he was actually indicted for sleeping with one of his undergrads. As a result of that, the school removed his application for a PhD, and he did not get his PhD in mathematics. This isn't to say that John was a stupid guy, though. He was actually incredibly intelligent. In fact, he was one of the only guys that I've ever been able to read about that has actually done lots of LSD and been able to monitor and keep trains on schedule using a punch card programming system. Look, guys, I don't know about you, but the copious amounts of drinking in college, I don't know how this man worked out that equation. You know, he definitely cracked the college equation for fucking alcoholism, because, you know, I drink one drink and I'm on the floor saying I'm a Navy SEAL and arguing for the betterment of man. So, John actually grew up in counterculture, which might also say why he does so many drugs and why he did so many in his youth. After that, he ended up moving towards Silicon Valley, where he partaked in a number of businesses that you might have heard of. In all of these Silicon Valley-based offices, many of the programmers, technicians, and engineers, all these creative, technology-based people would actually all take drugs openly in the office all the time. It was different times, of course. Nothing says taking a break like doing shrooms and DMT before you go and work your afternoon shift. John even said that he had to hide it from his mother and sometimes his wife. But in the work environment, depending on where you worked, in some companies, drugs were taken openly at lunchtime in people's offices. It was a bizarre time. But what kind of companies were engaging in this tomfoolery, you asked? Oh, only companies like NASA. Yes, John also worked for General Electric and Lockheed Martin. I find it amazing that there was a time and place where you could go to NASA and do shrooms. So, take that for what you will. Honestly, I think Adderall has done more for education and businesses than actual teachers have, but, that's just my ANCAP sensibilities kicking in. Now, while working at Lockheed Martin, this was the first time that John had actually heard about what a virus is and what a computer virus actually did. And based off of this, he was able to go and open up Mcafee Associates. That company would go on to make the antivirus software that you don't use but is bundled with your grandma's all-in-one Intel machine because, surprise, surprise, Intel bought Mcafee. In fact, Intel bought Mcafee for $7.6 billion. Now, after the selling of Mcafee and John's leaving of the company, he laid low for a while. He taught some, he was a professor at this rate. But then, at one point, with all of his millions of dollars, he decided, I'm gonna go retire in Belize. For some reason, Belize is just where wealthy people go to when they have lots of money to spend and nothing to do it with, It's either that or Dubai, but, I'd much rather take beach sand over desert sand because sand is coarse, rough, and it gets everywhere. Now, apparently, while in Belize, John became like a beggar. He peed in the streets openly during daylight. He smelled really bad of alcohol. It was a mess, but he still had an estate in a mansion that he could go and retire to at the end of the day. Now, while he was in Belize, he decided to get into pharmaceuticals, and this is why he became kind of a criminal in Belize. So, because of his less than savory appearance and smell, people seem to think that John was indulging in the production of psychostimulant methamphetamines. So, the government did what governments do, and they raided his estate, they shot his dog, they destroyed his place, and then said, doesn't look like meth. They confiscated his passport, all of his registered weapons, everything. So they briefly imprisoned him for a time, assuming it was meth, but it ended up, again, not being meth. So they just put this guy in jail and shot his dog for no reason. I will say this though, why are you running a pharmaceutical company outside of your mansion? But hey, you know what, when you're rich, I guess you can afford to put a pharmaceutical laboratory in the basement of your mansion. Apparently, Belize is painfully corrupt, and John knew this, and he was making pharmaceuticals in his house because, well, it was safer. This is all alleged, and according to John, it was because a politician wanted some donations from him, in fact, asking for millions of dollars in return for John's support. Since John said no to this, the politician had the police raid his estate. They branded him a criminal. And it was all because John didn't want to give this guy money. Now, while this raid was going on, bet you're wondering, what the hell is John doing? Well, he wasn't at his estate because he was in the middle of falling in love with an ex-prostitute. Let's check that. A 16-year-old ex-prostitute. Now, at one point in this relationship with Amy, the ex-prostitute, Amy attempted to murder John using one of John's many firearms because he likes firearms and he believes in the Second Amendment like no other man I have ever seen believe in it. Apparently, Amy missed, saying that she just wanted to scare John. In return, John now has a ruptured eardrum, so he's technically deaf in one ear. She also held John at knife point one time because John was ogling other women. John's response to being held at knife point was, "Go ahead, kill me." And she couldn't go through with it. Apparently it was a bit of a violent love affair, I will say that. What makes John a real criminal though, a real life Tony Montana, is because of his neighbor. Now, it's presumed, big air quotes, that he murdered his neighbor, Gregory Fall. John feels though that the government murdered his neighbor and it was at the behest of them wanting to clean house and that John was next on the chopping block to be taken care of by the government. He was labeled a person of interest in the murder, that being they thought he might have killed Gregory. Now, it was never confirmed of whether or not John actually did murder Gregory, though it's pretty much assumed that people think John did. Now, the reason for this is because Gregory didn't like John's dogs. Apparently, the dogs were a little violent, and at one point, Gregory poisoned and killed the dog, allegedly. John has no idea if it was Gregory, he's just assuming it was now. But John says he didn't kill him. Now, John needed to get out of Belize. He needed to get away from the government, and unfortunately, the government catched up to him, all thanks to Vice. Now, on John's way out of the country, he was escaping to Guatemala, mind you, Vice published a picture of, John, just secretly crossing the border into Guatemala, and they forgot to scrub the location data from this, and oopsie whoopsie, the Guatemalan government caught up to him for that. Now, the logical progression for this is that, John's going away to jail for a very, very long time. But no, it turns out not. For some reason, Guatemala just let him go and let him fly back to Miami. He has faced no charges for any of what happened in Belize, and that murder has never been solved. And, John's a free man back in the United States. And, because he's an entrepreneur, once he got back to the United States, guess what he did? No, it has nothing to do with Antivirus. In fact, what John did when he got back here was say, hey, I'm gonna make a book about my crazy life. No, not just a book. Who reads books with words? I want a graphic novel. So there's a comic book with John Mcafee as the main character. There's literally a drawing where his lover, ex-prostitute Amy, holds him at knife point. There's another one where she misses shooting him. This is a real book. That's brilliant. Now, what's great about all of this is that it has no bearing whatsoever on him wanting to run for president. Why does he just want to run for president? Why? That's a really good question. I'd love to know. Well, he just kind of wants to. Okay. More specifically, he doesn't want to be president, he just wants to run for president. So that way he can get the ideas and talk and conversation about cryptocurrency into the mainstream.
You tweeted that if the price of Bitcoin doesn't go to $1 million by 2020...
I will eat my member, yes.
So there you have it. John will eat his own dick in a year because cryptocurrency is like $4,000 right now. It's not really worth a lot. Or at least Bitcoin is. I don't know if anything is worth more. So John wants to be the libertarian nominee for president. So you can not vote for him. Why do I say that? Why do I say not vote for John Mcafee? That's because his campaign slogan is "Don't vote for Mcafee 2020." I mean, at least he's honest. That's rare to find in the political world. Either him running for president is a work of postmodern art, or he's serious. But I can't tell. Like, guys, John Mcafee has an anime profile picture. Guys, he literally shitpost with Joe jokes on Twitter. At the behest of his campaign manager, he changed his profile picture to Joseph Joestar. Old Joseph, mind you, the better version, because something about that Indiana Jones look, perfect. His reason? Because young people like anime profile pictures. His Twitter profile is literally a JoJo's reference. That's hilarious. Speaking of campaign manager, look at his campaign manager. There's a completely unsubstantiated rumor that this man's body is covered in burn scars. What for? I have no clue. I don't even know why he has an eye patch. Maybe he's a Navy SEAL. I have no idea. But, people keep saying that John Mcafee is like a Far Cry character. That's why. Also, he has tribal tattoos. And I don't know about you guys, but nothing screams early 2000s like getting a president with tribal tattoos. What's even better than that? This boomer gets high all the time. John Mcafee, one of his main platforms for running for president, as is with most cool libertarians, is that they want the legalization of marijuana. So, of course, there are tons of pictures and videos of John Mcafee high as hell, or just, him smoking a doobie, enjoying himself, enjoying life. I especially like the pictures where it's John Mcafee, shirtless, tribal tattoos out, holding a gun and sunglasses. If that doesn't scream Far Cry's next villain, I don't know what does. I love it. I seriously, legitimately want this man in a video game. Can somebody please make that happen? If you want me to be honest, John Mcafee actually seems like a lot of fun. Real talk. I'm being sort of serious here, but also not. Like, he's the fun kind of alcoholic. Not like the kind of alcoholic that leaves your family for a week because he's bad at conflict resolution. Don't know where that came from. That was weird. Anyway, I'm sold on John Mcafee 2020. I am so excited and ready for the 2020 elections. It's gonna be awful. Everyone's gonna be miserable. It's gonna be the end of everything. Honestly, I'm voting for Mcafee because, you know, it's time to shoot some dicks and eat some guns. And there's nothing better than Mcafee's platform of, you know, if Bitcoin doesn't reach a gazillion dollars, I'm gonna eat my member. Literally, if he became president, it would be an ANCAP paradise. I literally see the ANCAP balls sweating now. That's gonna sound really, really bad out of context. I'm gonna put one of the ANCAP memes on the screen so nobody thinks I'm just talking about testicles. So if you'd like to support this channel and help me on my quest to become leader of the free world, you can do so by buying some merch and following that link in the description below. We have 2 new designs, right? And also the edgy merch, which I know a lot of you guys would like because you're edgy. I've also heard some wants for boomer themed merch. Give me some time. Hopefully before VidCon. There you go. Even better, follow me on Twitter to see the degradation of society, the thing we live in. And you can learn why we actually don't live in a society, but it's actually a bad isekai anime. Or follow me on Instagram, where I'm fat and out of shape, but pretend to be in shape. It's been a rough month, guys. Get out of here. Leave. Go do things. There you go. Bye.